book. In particular, I want to thank my neighbors Bob and Katie LaPlante and friends Francis Lankin and Wayne Campbell, who dragged me away from my desk and took me to fish fries and the Legion when I needed a break. I want to thank my husband, Richard Barry, who gave me excellent writing advice and put up with a lot of moaning and groaning as I struggled to find the time and energy to write between running in 2 federal elections, family obligations, and working a full-time job. Richard, your support and confidence saw me through and out the other side of those hard moments when I just wanted to give up. And finally, heartfelt thanks and endless love go to my 2 children, Astra and Billy, for their encouragement and love. They and my grandsons, James and Tristan, are shining jewels that make my life rich and wonderful. A note on language. Adoption in Canada is defined as the legal transfer of parental rights and obligations from birth parents to adoptive parents. In the legal language used in most jurisdictions, biological mothers are referred to as birth mothers. However, the language surrounding adoption has evolved over the years, and many mothers have come to regard this term as derogatory, as relegating them to being simply breeders or former mothers of their children. Many women prefer the term natural or first mother, but some adoptive parents feel that term implies that there is something unnatural about them as parents or that they come second as parents. I have found it impossible to find language that everyone in the adoption triangle can support. In the end, for clarity and consistency, I've opted to use the legal terms birth mother and birth parents. Introduction. On January 30th, 1968, at the age of 19, I delivered a 7-pound, 13-ounce boy in a hospital in Barrie, Ontario. I named him Andrew Fitzpatrick. I never got to hold him. I signed him away, out of my life, to strangers. There were no supports for single moms, and many women at the time would rather have died than find themselves pregnant out of wedlock. This is not an unusual story. It is far more common than most people are aware. In her 2006 book, The Girls Who Went Away, American writer Ann Fessler states that in the United States in the decades between the Second World War and Roe v. Wade, 1.5 million young women were secretly sent to homes for unwed mothers and coerced into giving their babies up for adoption. In kindly Canada, many thousands of young women suffered the same fate in that same time period. If you combine the number of women who gave away their babies with the numbers of adoptees, biological fathers, adoptive parents, siblings, grandparents, and other relatives from all sides, several million people in Canada and the United States are connected to this issue. The story is made more painful by the imposed secrecy, the shame, and the denial of human rights. The movie Philomena tells the moving story of one unwed pregnant Irish girl who was sent off to a Magdalene laundry, a business run by Irish nuns. They forced unmarried pregnant girls, as well as women who were considered too pretty, tempting to men, mentally disabled, or strong-willed, into asylums, where, in addition to other abuse, their babies would be taken from them. Philomena's child was allowed to stay in the home with her for 3 years, then was taken away and given up for adoption to a couple from the United States. Of course, women have been having children out of wedlock since the beginning of time. Some pregnancies were brought under an umbrella of respectability by shotgun marriages. Other young women had no choice but to bear the shame of having the child in their own communities, and sometimes allowing their parents to raise the child as their own. Some attempted to self-abort, often mangling themselves in the process, and others would risk backstreet abortions, which all too often would leave them gravely injured and infertile, and sometimes kill them. I tried to go it alone. Rather than confess my supposed sin to my parents, I kept my secret and spent the months of my pregnancy with friends. I see what happened to me and to countless other women through a feminist perspective, a perspective that is little represented in the adoption books that I am familiar with. In these stories, a distinction is often